Okay, let's unpack this one. Get ready. Because if the June 2025 issue of the Ulster Airmail is anything to go by, May was truly extraordinary, just jam-packed for aviation heritage and events, and we're about to dive right in.
Flipping through, you immediately see it's a photo special. The activity level was just, well, through the roof. The big visits, the event highlights, and the historical bits packed into these pages. We want to pull out the most fascinating knowledge. And the magazine kicks off perfectly with the chairman Ray Burroughs column. He really sets the scene. He calls May absolutely crazy busy. Says it was one of the busiest months in the Society's 56 years. And crucially, certainly the best ever for visiting VIPs.
Not a quiet month then.
Not at all. Ray mentions the shop team, for instance. They had 3 events. Boom, boom, boom.
Which ones?
Shane's Castle, thankfully good weather, no mud this time. Then Wallace Park, which sounded like a bit of a breather, more relaxed. And then the RUAS Balmoral show. Massive. Ray calls it frenetic. Though he did mention fun stuff like Granny Turismo and the dancing JCBs. And on top of that, you had the Spitfire team having a really hectic week with VE Day events in Belfast.
Right.
Plus those really significant VIP visits back at the hangars. The volunteers must have been working completely flat out.
Ray does mention they needed a wee break before the next big thing, Armed Forces Day up in Newtonards on June 21st.
Which totally explains why this issue is, like he says, a photo special. So much happened.
So the big takeaway from Ray's column and just the sheer volume of stuff.
I think it's that keeping this heritage alive isn't just about, tinkering in the hangar. It's about being out there, engaging constantly with the public. Taking the collection to people is just as vital.
Good point. And the star of that public engagement in May really seems to have been the Spitfire.
Ah, yes, the Spitfire tour. That really does feel like the main thread running through the month's events section.
It absolutely does. It kicked off on May 6th. Location: Stormont, Parliament Buildings. It was for the speaker's 80th anniversary VE Day event. Ray recounts the whole process. Arriving just after 10 a.m., waiting for the wings and the steps, which turned up a bit later. He notes fitting the starboard wing took a little longer than the port side.
Yeah, you can imagine the pressure.
But he highlights that having Stormont as the backdrop gave them some of the most stunning photographs of their Spitfire. You can see them in the issue. They look amazing.
And it wasn't just about the photos, was it? People really engaged with it.
They were inundated, Ray says. MLAs, members of the Legislative Assembly from most parties, government staff, all queuing up, eager for photos in the Spitfire cockpit.
Wow.
So it wasn't just like exhibiting an object. It was using it as this powerful historical symbol for public and political engagement.
Yeah, connecting people directly to that history.
And the media definitely noticed. The Belfast Telegraph covered it. They specifically linked the aircraft back to the Second World War Belfast Telegraph Spitfire Fund, which helped pay for wartime Spitfires. It even got a front-page photo and a page-and-a-half feature inside. Huge visibility for the Society and its work. And then by 4 p.m., the busy process of taking it all apart began again.
Only for it to immediately head somewhere else. Belfast City Hall, wasn't it? For another VE Day thing.
Arrived just before 5 p.m. on May 7th.
Quick turnaround.
Very. Fuselage in place by 6 p.m. Wings back on by 6:30 p.m. Ray actually notes down was assembled again, which, after the Stormont effort, has a certain weary ring to it.
Here we go again.
Pretty much. City Hall staff helped out too, positioning red lights and using a smoke machine. Made it look really atmospheric as it got dark.
Nice touch.
Yeah. The team stayed until about 10 p.m. that night, just making sure the Spitfire was safe and sound with City Hall security overnight.
It's a seriously long day just for the setup. VE Day itself, May 8th, what was that like?
Nonstop. Absolutely nonstop. Ray describes a constant queue from 10 in the morning right through till 5 in the afternoon. People just waiting patiently for their turn to get into the cockpit.
Amazing.
He mentions the incredible mix of people, too. Lots of worldwide visitors. Apparently some were from a cruise ship docked in Belfast that day. All wanted to connect with this piece of history. And then, bang on 5 p.m., as soon as the queue stops, it's time for the rapid dismantling again. And the Spitfire heads back to May's Long Cache. Okay, so shifting gears from public events to, well, VIPs. The magazine details 2 really important visits to the hangars in May.
That's right. First up, Wednesday, May 7th, the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Hilary Benn, MP. This was actually set up by the Northern Ireland office as part of his VE Day tour.
And what was the focus?
Well, what's really nice is that it was specifically arranged so he could meet 100-year-old veteran Fred Jennings.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. The source says he spoke with Fred for some 40 minutes, a really decent chat. Then he spent another hour touring the hangars, talking with volunteers.
Sounds like he was genuinely interested, not just a flyby visit.
And apparently Mr. Benn confirmed that later at the Balmoral show, told Ray he could have spent another 3 hours.
High praise indeed. And a great boost for the volunteers, and for Fred especially.
The photos show him looking closely at the gun turret, really engaged. These visits matter, you know? They validate the work. And speaking of validation...
The royal visit. Thursday, May 23rd. HRH, the Duke of Gloucester, visited Maison-Cache.
This came about after the NIO suggested it as a potential venue back in April. A Czech visit confirmed it, then it was kept quiet initially, security checks for volunteers, the whole thing.
And the day itself.
Well, typical Northern Ireland. After a month of sunshine, the weather broke. Rain. But HRH Prince Richard actually arrived 20 minutes early.
Oh, that's good. It meant more time.
Exactly. He got to see virtually every room, had a quick chat to many of our volunteers. About 40 of them were there. The article lists so many things. He saw the Ferguson Flyer replica, the Buccaneer, met the officers.
Any specific projects mentioned?
Yeah, he saw the Wildcat restoration, heard from Alex Wright, the AEC Matador with Gary Millington, saw the Red Arrows Hawk with Ray, the ejection seats with Mal Dealey, the Phantom with Paul Young.
Wow, really comprehensive.
He met Fred Jennings in the radio room, spoke to Donna Lappin there too, saw Ray Spence's medals, signed the visitor's book, and left with a copy of Eyes Turned Skyward.
That shows real interest, covering so much ground.
It does.
Beyond the VIPs and the Spitfire, they were still out doing other public events too.
Oh yeah, like the Wallace Park event in Lisburn, the Lord Mayor's Fun Day on May 10th.
How was that one?
Sounded a bit more relaxed. They had the Bulldog aircraft in the Devon cockpit there. Johnny was explaining the Bulldog's controls. They met the mayor, had Spider-Man wandering around, the Irish Guards mascot, and Shane's Castle for the May Day steam rally. Same setup, Bulldog, Devon cockpit, marquees. Big relief apparently that it was sunny, no mud. Practical things matter.
Definitely. And then Balmoral, the big one.
4 days, May 14th to 17th, big presence, tornado nose section, gun turret exhibit. Sounds like it was really hot weather-wise.
Any highlights?
Aside from Granny Turismo, Ray got interviewed for TV and U105 FM, and a really good opportunity for visitors to hear about the Tornado GR4 from squadron leader Ian Dornan, RAF retired.
So yeah, constant effort bringing history to the public. But the magazine also looks back through a more personal lens. Tony Smith piece.
Yes, Rummaging Through Air, Part 4. It's lovely. Just him going through old photos after retiring, sparking all these memories of planes and airfields from years ago.
Where does he start?
RAF Woodvale talks about the Gate Guardians changing over the years, a Meteor, then a Phantom FGR-2 in Aggressor colors, which he thought was a bit odd for Woodvale, and now a Hawk T1. He remembers the old units, chipmunks, even Spitfires and Mosquitoes doing photo recce and target towing.
Old school stuff.
He's got photos of a Fairey Gannet AS-1 at Eglinton, likely a training squadron plane. A Griffin helicopter supporting cadets at SCTC Inskip explains how they fit into the tri-service training at RAF Shawbury.
What about the American stuff? Burtonwood.
Yeah, 1958. He vividly remembers the massive Douglas C-124 Globemasters flying daily, said the sound made him run outside to watch. And seeing an F-100F Super Sabre taxiing out, people lining the taxiway, he says you just wouldn't see that today, security-wise.
It's true. Different times.
He also has shots of an RAF provost trainer at Feltwell again, noting the crowds near the taxiway.
And his last photo sounds amazing.
It does. A Hawk coming into land at RAF Valley, taken from the back seat of another Hawk. He mentions getting these backseat flights in his 60s through his cadet work. What an experience.
Great personal story. Ties it all together. Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic. Colin Boyd went to the Yuma Air Show in Arizona, March 15th.
Yep. Sets the scene. Joint civil-military airfield, glorious sunshine, perfect air show weather. But the security? Quite something else for non-U.S. citizens.
How so?
Fairly extensive and lengthy, he calls it. Bag searches, photos, fingerprints, passport checks, had to wear passes. Saw military observers with sniper rifles. his takeaways. Security was being taken seriously. A step up from UK shows, it sounds like.
Sounds it. What was on the ground? The static display.
He highlights the brand new U.S. Marine CH-53K King Stallion helicopter, calls it huge, points out the visual differences, new nose, crank tail rotor, bigger fuel tanks, lifts light armored vehicles, 36,000-pound payload. That's triple the cargo capacity of the old one and double that of its newest competitor.
Impressive. What else?
Other Marine helicopters, Cobra, Venom, fixed-wing stuff like an A-26 Invader Millionaires, an MQ-9A Reaper drone, Harrier, a Navy EA-18G Growler in patriotic colors. Saw several F-35Bs from the local Yuma squadron.
The F-35s are always a draw.
Yeah, and he noticed one had a gun pod fitted, which was a first for him. Also, a specially marked Hornet, an F-5 freedom fighter. Oh, and Fat Albert, the Blue Angels C-130J support plane, points out it's actually an ex-RAF Hercules.
Small world. How about the flying display?
Action-packed. Kicked off with a parachutist while some RV-8 aerobatic planes circled. Saw a MiG-17 in red doing lovely topside and fast passes using afterburner to climb.
A MiG-17. Cool.
And it raced the Hot Streak 2 jet-powered truck. Colin says that truck can really move when it's given the beans.
Uh-huh. Bet that was loud.
Sounds like it. Then the USAF F-16 demo jet in a striking red, white, and blue 50th anniversary scheme. Great performance. Flew a heritage formation with a P-51 Mustang, too.
Nice touch.
The Commemorative Air Force flew a B-25 Mitchell bomber and an F-6F Hellcat fighter with pyrotechnics simulating bomb runs. Very evocative.
The main event was the Marines demo.
Yeah, the U.S. Marine Corps Aviation Capabilities demo. He calls it a highlight, an entertaining display showing off how different aircraft work together.
What did it involve?
F-35B, an FA-18D Hornet in a Tiger livery, Cobras, Venoms, the big CH-53K King Stallion, MV-22 Osprey tiltrotor, and an MC-130J transport. They simulated the King Stallion landing troops while others provided cover. And they Osprey picking troops up, fighters doing mock air-to-air refueling from the MC-130J, a really dynamic way to show their capability.
Anything else stand out?
The F-5s, a quartet of U.S. Marine Corps F-5N freedom fighters in aggressor colors. He notes they're rare, only used for training at Yuma and Key West. Their four-ship formation flying crossovers got an excellent rating from him.
Aggressor colors always look cool.
They do. And the Marine F-35B demo was impressive too, showing off conventional flight and, of course, the hovering capability.
And the finale?
The civilian Patriot display team flying L-39 Albatross jets. Very professional and polished, he said. Formation, crossovers, and wait for this, one of the lowest fast passes I've ever witnessed, about 20 feet off the runway.
Wow, that's low.
Seriously low. They can use red, white, or blue smoke too. So, Colin's verdict. Very enjoyable show, good variety, great weather for photos, and amazingly, free to enter.
Free entry is always good. All in all, a grand day out.
Colin's report gives you a great taste of a different style of air show, doesn't it? Compared to maybe a typical UK event. The scale of the place, that intense security, the focus on modern military muscle alongside the heritage stuff, and that unique flavor of US acts like the jet truck.
Yeah, it broadens the perspective, definitely. Okay, back to Northern Ireland history.
Specifically, Second World War heavy bombers. The magazine continues that series on the short Stirlings.
Yes, this is part 22 of Ray Burroughs' ongoing series, Made in Ulster, Short Stirlings. For instance, it details Stirling N6044. Completed 14 ops, which is quite a few for a Stirling. But it suffered numerous accidents. Multiple undercarriage collapses, an engine fire, a belly landing. It even hit a tree once, had a tire burst.
Sounds like it led a charmed life despite all that.
In a way. It was declared damaged several times, CAT ACB, meaning repairable, and was patched up multiple times by a company called Sebro. It actually achieved a surprisingly long operational life compared to many Stirlings, before finally being struck off charge in May 1944 after that final tire burst incident.
But then you get the other side of the coin, examples like N6045 and N6046, which illustrate a much shorter, brutal reality.
Absolutely. N6045 had a tragically short life, just 4 operations, only 31 hours and 15 minutes total flying time. Its pilot was Flight Lieutenant R.P. Wallace Terry. It was lost on a particularly costly raid to Berlin, September 7th, 1941. Came down near Hengelo Steenderen in Holland, badly hit by flak. All 8 crew members survived and became prisoners of war. And the article notes, N6045 was the first complete Stirling the Germans managed to recover. N6046 had an even shorter life. 5 operations, just 34 hours, 50 minutes flying time.
Oh, man.
Pilot was Flight Sergeant Yardley, lost on the exact same Berlin raid, September 7th, 1941. The aircraft was declared Cat E destroyed due to battle damage and struck off charge the very next day.
Tracking each plane like this gives such a powerful, granular view of history.
This kind of detailed research highlighting the dramatic, often incredibly short lives of these Ulster-built bombers, it's just a vital part of preserving their memory accurately.
Okay, finally, let's look inside the Society's own hangars. It's where the volunteers really get hands-on, keeping the collection alive and growing. This gives you that real behind-the-scenes look at the continuous, hands-on work preserving these incredible artifacts.
Yeah, this section is really the heart of it, isn't it? What about the Wildcat? Ray gives updates on several key projects, the Ferry Gannet, for instance.
How's that coming along?
Nearing completion, sounds like. Ian Hendry is pulling out all the stops on the paintwork. Ray says it's beginning to look stunning. He reckons it'll look as good as new once the final markings go on the Royal Navy lettering, the nose codes. That's really exciting progress on a big, prominent aircraft like the Gannet.
Definitely. And the Wildcat fighter project. That seems to face a different kind of challenge, more about documentation.
Exactly. Nick Rogers is working on something crucial, getting old microfiche reels checked so that they can be digitized.
Microfiche takes you back.
Doesn't it? But Ray notes this would be a giant leap forward for the project. It's essential for getting accurate drawings, the ones with measurements needed for the actual restoration work. Accessing original documentation like that is often a massive hurdle for these kinds of complex restorations.
Yeah, you need the blueprints. What about the AEC Matador truck restoration?
That's moving forward quickly, too. Wood for the project arrived early May. Gary and Tommy are cracking on with the structural work. Reen expects the rear section of the vehicle to be almost finished by the end of June.
Good progress. And next up might be an airfield tractor.
Yeah, the David Brown airfield tractor. Ray mentions it currently looks beyond restoration.
Oh, dear. Is it salvageable?
He immediately follows that up by saying, but it's not. He points out that actually lots of smaller, complete parts for the tractor have already been restored, brought back to pristine condition.
Okay.
It gives you a sense of the painstaking work, doesn't it? Even on projects that look really rough initially. It's about seeing the potential and tackling it piece by piece. Any updates on the Tucano, the Enniskillen aircraft?
Yeah, the interior is done. Cockpit panels, control column, ejection seat, all fitted. Just need some small panels underneath and the air brake sorting. They're hoping to get it outside for photos soon. Big thanks mentioned to the RAF Heritage team and Steve Brown for their help.
It's not just the planes, though. Infrastructure is important, too.
Crucial. They're refurbishing the massive rear hangar doors. Hangar 1's doors were done and reinstalled mid-May. Work started immediately on Hangar 2's doors, staging up, membrane installed. Getting those sorted is vital for protecting the collection.
And looking ahead, any new arrivals planned?
Yes, acquisitions are definitely in the works. They were due to pick up some flying boat models and a sectioned PT-6 engine from RAF Cosford around the end of May.
PT-6, the turboprop. Nice display item.
Yeah, and crucially, they did a detailed inspection of the short SB.5 research aircraft, also at Cosford.
Now, that's a major project, getting that back to Northern Ireland.
Huge. It involved taking detailed measurements, working out exactly how to remove the wings safely, planning the whole transport logistics. There's tremendous pressure to get it right the first time because it's complex and expensive.
I bet. Any other aircraft coming?
A Sea King helicopter. Needs collecting from HMS Sultan down in Gosport, Hampshire.
Wow. An SB.5 and a Sea King. What's the timeline?
Ambitious. The goal is to get both the SB.5 and the Sea King transported back and on display at Maze Lankesh in time for the European Heritage Open Days weekend.
When's that?
September 13th and 14th. That would be quite something to unveil both them.
Definitely something to look forward to. And before that, the magazine mentions Armed Forces Day again.
Quick reminder, yeah. At Newtownards Airfield, Saturday, June 21st. Planned displays include the Red Arrows, the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, and the Irish Air Corps. Could be another massive event.
So, wrapping up this issue of the Ulster Airmail. What a month. It really captures this incredible energy, doesn't it? It takes real passion, real dedication from the volunteers week in, week out. Makes you think about the stories these machines hold. So, if this deep dive into the Ulster Airmail has sparked your interest, and maybe you're not yet involved, consider joining the Ulster Aviation Society. It's a fantastic way to support all this work we've been talking about, and you get access to more great content like this magazine.
You can find out how on the membership page of their website, ulsteraviationsociety.org.
Definitely worth checking out.
See you next month for another deep dive.